Welcome to the Greenroom with Claude and Justin. We're just lamenting again the sort of unconvincing stakes that were sometimes displayed on the show. And Justin was bringing up a good point about Widmore. So what were you saying?
Yeah, so, occasionally I pop open a season 6 or season 5 episode just to see, what it looks like now. Hoping that, I guess, like, the blind hope is that somehow I'll look at it and get it, it'll all just make more sense somehow if I think about it. But usually that's not what happens. Usually I get more frustrated, so that's what happened in this case. So I was watching the second to last episode where Widmore, finally, comes to the island and he's going to go carry out his mission. That's, spoiler alert, never going to get carried out.
Uh-oh.
And, eventually Ben betrays him, and then, like, the Man in Black goes and finds him in the closet, and
Who's hiding in that closet? Charles Widmore. Can you believe that? I mean, honestly, this is one of those. I think there should be a list of like astonishments that I have with this show, and it's astonishing to me that Charles Widmore, the sort of, I guess number 3 villain on the show after Man in Black and Ben.
Yeah.
Ben is kind of weird because he's a protagonist too, but
he switches, but
I mean,
he was a major villain.
It's at least number 3.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes obviously number 1.
Yeah.
Yet he ends up cowering in a closet. You know what I mean? Like that's where his character ends up, and it's just weird to me that like that's what they got out of that was this magnanimous man who was like, who in season 2, who was Widmore?
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff, and
the mysterious Widmore pregnancy test.
Exactly.
The Widmore on the air balloon.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, not weather balloon, but hot air balloon.
Yeah, the hot air balloon.
And it's all that stuff came down to him hiding in Ben's secret closet.
Mm-hmm.
His enemy's secret closet.
Yeah.
While an even bigger foe, just totally dominates him. So I think that's just one of those things that you can tell in a way that Widmore's arc, his character story wasn't sort of written from beginning to end, before the major pieces were in place. That's obviously an arc of a sort of organically written character. Because I don't think you would do that. You don't think you would have your main villain just sort of lose really, and not have a sort of really interesting ending.
I agree. It definitely sort of reeks of, we got a lot of shit to do, and we just need to get rid of this Widmore guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not going to serve a purpose for us anymore. So, they definitely had, the grand finale with Jack in mind, I think.
Yes, totally.
Like, that's a real ending. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's just like house cleaning, like we just, we can't just have Widmore roaming around at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do with him? And they decided, he'd go out cowering in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So, I agree. It's a great disappointment, really, because Widmore definitely had his moments, despite the fact that, he had such a really disappointing ending.
Yeah, but so back to what you were saying about his belief in the idea that if Man in Black left the island, the world would be destroyed.
Yeah, so I'm watching that scene when Man in Black goes in there, and he's like, hey, tell me what I want to know, or I'm going to, or when I get off this island, I'm going to go kill your daughter. And, and then Widmore's like, oh, whatever, you'll just kill her anyway. And, it's, which is just, kind of a standard cliche line that people say to villains,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what you want to know. You'll just do it anyway. I can't trust you.
You can't trust him, yeah.
Like, I think that's all he's saying there. And Man in Black's, no, I give you my word. Mm-hmm. And so he tells him. He just tells him. And then, immediately thereafter, Ben shoots him and says, he doesn't get to save his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of Widmore. But,
dying, not even by Man in Black. See, and that's the thing. We don't ever actually get to find out, of course, if Locke's, Man in Black's word was true or not. He doesn't get to follow through with his promise or his word, because Ben comes in and makes it about him and says, I'm really petty and I'm gonna, just kill Widmore.
Yes. Exactly. But according to Man in Black, Widmore's already told him the secret. So the information was passed, and like you said, all that negotiating completely irrelevant now.
Mm-hmm. And they made irrelevant why Ben shot him, because the information was actually already passed.
Yeah.
So really, all you get when you do the math is Widmore dead. Everything else cancels itself out as a reason for that scene. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least in terms of that last bit of exchanges between those characters, it's like
right.
Yeah.
Right, because if Ben shot him before he told Man in Black, then Man in Black's going to be pissed at Ben.
Yeah.
But as it is, he's like, oh, Ben, he already told me what I needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it negates.
It negates why Ben even did what he did. Because if Ben would have known he already told him what he needs to know, he didn't need to shoot him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not, the whole point of shooting him was so that he wouldn't get the chance to tell him and thereby, supposedly save his daughter. So, I mean, as you've noted, that scene's got problems already. It doesn't need more. But then, I think back to an earlier scene with Widmore and Jen. I didn't remember the exact lines, but I pulled them up, and
thank you, Internet.
Here they are. Charles Widmore says to Jen, if that thing masquerading as John Locke ever got off this island, your wife, your daughter, my daughter, everyone we know and love would simply cease to be. I came here to make sure that doesn't happen. So he even mentions Penny specifically as someone who's going to die. I mean, Man in Black hasn't threatened her yet. There's no direct, he's going to go kill her. The point is, and what he's saying is everybody's going to die. Everybody. So Charles, if you really think that, then why are you negotiating with the Man in Black?
Charles Widmore to the stand, please. Charles Widmore to the stand. First question from the prosecution.
I mean, what is it, Charles? Do you believe that or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think he's overreacting. It's a bit of hyperbole, old chap.
That's a lot of hyperbole, Charles.
I like how now you're in a first-name basis.
Yeah, well.
You're through with the formalities. You're like, listen here, man, explain yourself.
Yeah,
I agree. It's so he's basically saying, and it's actually one of the few times that we get that stake really articulated, right? I mean, so much of it before then is this idea of the world that's going to end, but he's the one that actually says, sort of specifically, this cease to be thing.
Yeah.
Which is sort of in contrast with what it seems like, the other idea of Man in Black getting off the island, which is instead he would just sort of indiscriminately kill people or something like that.
Right.
Or he would, or I guess the third idea is his evil claiming power would spread, which effectively would kill people. There's so many ideas of what it means for him to get off the island, but Widmore is saying this idea of ceasing to be, It just makes me think that what he's hinting at and what they could have done to bridge a lot of these problems with not only, this, but with the Flash Sideways and with the ghost stuff is to say something like, Man in Black leaving the island is effectively something like putting out the light was,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they hint at that, right? But they should have just explicitly said, that, the same way that the Flash Sideways has to do, with the light that they go into at the end and all this stuff, it should have just been like, if he gets off the island, nobody gets to have this purgatory world, which is important for moving on.
Mm-hmm.
The end, he effectively, would be damning people to, like, Michael or something, or just to be stuck as a ghost or something,
Mm-hmm.
They never connected what the stakes were. And like you said, I think before we started recording the Green Room, it's like, in the end with Christian, when, the end episode, him and Jack are talking in the chapel, it's like, he specifically doesn't make it about the island. He says the most important thing was your time with these people, So there, again, they don't bridge the Flash Sideways with their island experiences. They don't make it they don't make it connected in terms of what happens on the island specifically matters for their Flash Sideways.
Yeah.
It could have been anywhere else.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes it like two different stories. It's like the story about these people who meet in an extreme circumstance that binds them so strongly that they move together to the next life.
Yeah.
That meets this show about a mysterious island with, it's like it's two different shows sort of put together, and obviously, we keep talking about that, that's the theme of analyzing Lost is the camp that was interested in the mysteries and the questions and the answers and stuff, and the camp for the characters.
Yes. Yes. And, I like to think I cared about both to some extent. But I feel like stories are stronger when the character side of the story ties in to the plot side of the story. Yeah. And, like, the characters overcoming their problems is directly related to resolving the problems of the plot. And so saving the island should be connected to, the characters saving themselves in the purgatory or something like that.
That's very, standard storytelling. I mean, if you look at generally any movie, but, the general structure of movies is the characters are trying to solve problems. So that's obvious in, like, action movies, right, where somebody's trying to get from point A to point B in a specific amount of time and there's obstacles in their way, and they come up with different plans for trying to surmount the obstacles, And if you look at something like Aliens, you'll notice that, sort of right away, pretty early on, their main plan is to get the alien, to funnel the alien through the air shaft directly to the air duct and send it out into space. So Lost misses that, like by the midway of Lost, you don't have what the goal is of the show. You don't get that till the very, very, very end, really. Yeah. Of what that really means. Of this whole idea of Jacob recruiting people to take over his place. So that's kind of an obvious example of how you can't really get that same level of satisfaction with the characters in terms of it being integrated with the plot because they're throwing these major plot points at you so late in the game, because the early seasons wasn't really about that plot wise, so what the plot's about changes too, right? That's the other problem.
Well, yeah, and I think they
spend all that time with the others, and the others don't matter at all. The only other who matters is Ben and then Richard, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, maybe Juliet.
And Jacob, if you count him as one of the others.
I don't. He didn't. He didn't consider himself one of the others, so why should I?
Fair enough.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you spend a lot of time on that character stuff, and it doesn't really sort of go back into what the main plot is about.
Right.
I think they could have maybe done a whole other season on just the light cave stuff.
Sure.
Flash us back to the Egyptians. Why don't you? I'm sure there's some awesome Egyptian characters, who had some interesting things to say, and Maybe some interesting lower back tattoos or something.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, and just give us some more stuff, you know. But
yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's a different show.
It is a different show, and I understand, you know, that they sort of decided not to do that and make it, you know, more about just resolving the characters. But I still feel like they could have done that and still, you know, had the island story resolve in a way that was more connected to the characters. And I think that just would have felt stronger, you know, just overall. Like, even if, like, yeah, they, you know, they didn't have that in mind at the beginning. But, you know, I mean, writing's a process, you know, and, like,
yeah.
I think, you know, they could find a way. Like, I think with Jack, they almost did it. You know, I feel like his redemption was saving the island. But
you know, they missed it. It's like they ran up to me. In my mind, I always feel like they ran up to the finish line after a marathon and they stopped one short, and they didn't have Christian say, "Jack,
exactly,
you had what it took." You know, and I feel bad for wanting it to be so explicit, but I feel like it's not crazy for him to say that, for Jack to want to need to hear that as a character, for that to be satisfying. You know, it's not. You know, I feel like that's the subtext, but I feel like it's his character and the audience deserves to actually hear him say that, and hear that coming from the writers that yes, his journey is finally complete.
Yeah.
You know.
And, like, I don't, I would have liked to hear that, you know, particularly for the relationship with him and Christian, which, like, you know, we've seen the episode about recently. Like, remembering how bad it was, like, you know, it does feel kind of inadequate what they do with it at the end.
How bad the relationship was?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but just on a character level, you know, that could be better. On the other hand, like, what I want to hear from Christian is something about the island. I mean, this is a crappy line, but something like, you know, you saved the island, Jack. You saved the world. You know, that's why you're all here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I want to hear.
I agree. I mean, I think, like I was trying to sort of say earlier, I think Christian could have said something to the extent that saving the island, keeping a place for the light to shine, is the same thing as keeping everyone alive. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as allowing life to continue to you know, to move to higher levels or something, you know, to that, or the island is the bridge between our world and the next, you know what I mean, like the Flash sideways thing, you know.
Right.
That's what I think they should have been able to pretty easily say, you know, and make it obvious that if the island goes, then, you know, that's a problem for us wanting, you know, moving on to the afterlife.
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's an interesting, you know, sort of, you know, plot point to make, is that, oh no, you know, it's not some, you know, it's not like the villain is trying to, you know, bomb a bridge. It's the villain is trying to, you know, stop people from having an afterlife or something.
Right.
That's, you know, that's interesting.
It is, and like they have the raw materials for that story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like they would have to stretch what they actually showed.
It's not that they just had the raw materials. They built the structure and put the paint on it. They did everything but name it that. They did everything but call it that. You know what I mean? They did all the work. It's already there.
Yeah. You're right. It's beyond raw materials. They got the whole fucking house there. They have it there. They just refuse to call it a house or go live in it.
Exactly. They just didn't call it a house. Like, that looks like a house to me, but they didn't say it was a house, so I can't, you know, I don't know. Maybe.
And as it stands for Jack, it's sort of like he just so happened to die saving a mysterious island, but, you know, really the most important thing was that he met some people and spent some quality time with them.
It makes it seem like the problem with Jack and Christian was that Jack didn't have a lot of friends growing up, and he would never bond with people. I feel like that's the origin point for what they wrote at the end for Jack, in terms of how they resolved it with Christian. I feel like that to me is the beginning. It's like, okay, here's a guy who, for whatever issues with his dad or his parents, he's having some emotional, I feel like that's what you get out of that. Someone who can't, or feels like he can't connect to people, or something like that. Or he always feels like because he's a doctor, he won't, he will only see people as patients and not as, whatever you want to say. But then I would be like, okay, what they gave us was a satisfying end to that. Yay, Jack managed to bond with people and move on.
Right.
Cool. But when you start his story with, this kid who feels like he can't get his father's approval, and he won't have what it takes to succeed, it's cool that they showed him having what it took, but they should have just had the person who instigated that for him to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
It's like somebody, it's like a martyr dying for their religion and then getting to the afterlife, and then their God says, hey, what's up? Glad you're here, but doesn't say, I acknowledge what you did or something. Like, maybe that's a weird example, but you know what I mean? I just feel like, it's not getting acknowledgement for the whole reason that, the person went through the journey. Yeah,
and they're just like, you made some good friends in your life. You went to that. You went to those prayer meetings, and you really connected with those people, and that's they're here too.
Exactly. Yeah, you went to church every time you're supposed to, and you did everything you were supposed to do, but not actually acknowledging why died for my beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just
leaving that part
out.
Like, is that why I'm here? Apparently not. Apparently, all I had to do was go to prayer meetings. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually have to die for the cause.
It kind of makes it seem like if Jack would have let somebody else take over in the beginning, like if Jack really felt like he didn't have what it took in season 1 and actually didn't want to be be in charge of things, and he let other people handle it, and Jack ends up getting killed, at some point, it's just like it seems like he would have kind of had the same ending, like Christian would have said, hey, Jack, the most important thing was the time you spent with those people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, Damon and Carlton wrote that ending. They...
Supposedly. Allegedly, Your Honor. Let the record show that we're still trying to figure that out. We're calling Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to see if they know anything about this.
They were credited. That's all I'm saying. I didn't see them type it. I don't know what happened behind the scenes.
There are reports that typing was going on in their office, but no one saw them typing.
They publicly have taken credit for it. I'm just going to take their word for it.
All right.
I feel like they were there from the beginning of the show. We're going to watch an episode tonight written by Damon Lindelof. I mean,
spoiler alert coming up.
Carlton Cuse has already had a credit. They're running the show at this point already, and we barely got started. Yeah. They knew what their show was. I mean, they watched it. They not only sat in on the writers' room and helped break all the stories for every episode, but they also wrote a lot of scripts themselves. They oversaw the editing process, the special effects, the music.
So you're saying it was a small hobby of theirs?
Yes. I think they knew, like, the things you're saying about what Jack's arc was. I don't believe that they didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's just really, really confusing that the ending for Jack that they wrote.
Here's my thing about that, and I totally agree with you 100%. But I feel like when they are sitting in season 1 saying, what's the final image of Lost? The final image of Lost is Jack and Christian, reconnecting or something, in the afterlife or whatever, whatever their general idea is. But I feel like, did they or did they not say, let's have Christian not say you have what it takes? That's kind of my thing, is like, I think when the trajectory is right. I mean, they hit to me, like they almost, they got very close to the bullseye. I mean, it's like the bullseye is, the dart is right on the edge of the bullseye. You know what I mean? It's just like, why, in certain aspects of how they end the show, it's like, why not go a little bit more towards the center of the bullseye?
Right. Well, and they even have Jacob bring it up, in season 6. Like, so it's not as though they forgot about you have what it takes. I mean, Jacob tells him you have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Why did Jacob say it and not,
Well, and here's the thing, and maybe this is what they, and I don't know if this is the first time I thought of this or not, but maybe this is what they would say to answer my question and our sort of question about this, is that Jack didn't need to hear you have what it takes from Christian because by virtue of him being in the afterlife, he had gotten over needing to have that from his dad.
Yeah.
So in that moment, he doesn't need to hear that from Christian. I feel like that's the best you could do to explain why they don't actually have him say it.
Yeah.
Is some sense of he has to be beyond needing to hear that, even though that's the subtext and that's what they mean. But to me, I don't know. I'd rather stick with, I don't want to have to like presuppose that's what they meant by that,
right?
In order for me to make peace with how that scene plays out.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd rather just them say, hey, let's just have the audience have no doubt that Christian understands the journey his son went on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just strange that it's not about that, and it's actually, Christian receives him warmly, but it's actually not about Christian approving of Jack.
No.
It's actually about Christian explaining to Jack that, that he really made a connection to those people in the church.
Yeah.
And that's why they were there.
Mhm.
So like.
What if? Oh man, I don't know. I feel like I haven't thought of this before. What if Christian in the church was actually Smokey? Because let's not forget, Man in Black died too.
Yes, he did.
He spent a lot of time with those people.
He sure did.
And what if that was Man in Black posing as Christian again and ushered them into some other people?
Oh God, I would love it. That would be such a horror movie ending.
Yeah. I mean, because I feel like, how do we know that that's really Christian? Because we're in the afterlife, so what?
Yeah, I mean, it is weird to have, like, I guess I would think if Man in Black appeared in the afterlife, I mean, this is totally arbitrary. If Man in Black appeared in the afterlife, I would think he would appear as himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would assume that his smoke monster powers aren't still present after he's dead.
He took him with him. It's part of his carry-on. You'd be surprised how the powers of evil incarnate really fit into an overhead compartment. Very compact.
I wish it were true.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think it's true, but I think it's sad that you could make a case for it.
Sure. I mean, really, like, in a way, even though, like I said, he receives them warmly, and I mean, it is supposed to be him, I guess, there's a sense in which I feel like it's not Christian.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a guide. It's
I feel like it's someone who poses as Christian because that's, somebody the same way Man in Black poses people, like somebody you trust. So
right.
So you're not wondering who are you and what's going on. You can. I mean, it's Christian was very. It's sort of arbitrary for the guy to be Christian, if in any other sense, really. Yeah. Yeah, and
why
not somebody else's parent?
Well, sure.
All of their parents are dead at that point, so
Right, and Jack's mom's there, not in the church, but in the afterlife, and some of the other parents were there too. So, like, Christian is really just there to explain things, and so he's almost not the real character. But like, I'm really inclined to say that, given the way Christian died, drinking himself to death in Australia, with a ton of unresolved issues with his family. I feel like he should have needed his own flash sideways to work those out. I can't imagine that he was comfortable with everything that he had done in his life when he died.
Well, maybe he did. Maybe he's back from his own flash sideways. See,
and that's why I feel like. Yeah, but I feel like his flash sideways should have coincided with Jack's.
Well, but his would have been his own version of Jack or something, and other people in Christian's life that were, maybe his colleagues at work or something. I don't know. Like,
whoever else he needed.
The same way people, it's like not everybody is gonna have the real people in there and sharing flash sideways, apparently. So I feel like, because, Christian isn't in Jack's flash sideways, He's not like they're working out things while Jack is working out things.
See, that's what I think it should have been,
I would agree with that.
Like, I feel like instead of Jack and a fake Purgatory Boy son, I feel like it should have been... I feel like it should have been Jack and Christian. Like, given the second chance where, let's say Christian this time, does not go die in Australia, but Jack actually picks him up there and brings him home, and, they actually get a chance to talk things over. Like, I feel like that's actually, the natural way that should fit into the Flash Sideways.
Yeah.
But instead, like, it's something like what you're saying, like Christian just has had his flash sideways separately somehow. That's okay, I guess. But, it just seemed like, there was sort of one flash sideways, and, like, there were other characters like Ana Lucia and Charlotte and Dan and Miles and, Miss Hawking who had, like, who seemed to have the same flash sideways even though they weren't part of the group.
Well, but here's the deal. When Ana Lucia is in the same sort of flash sideways with everyone, but once they leave, what does that mean in terms of her flash sideways? So, I think the way I approach the flash sideways, it's a very abstract concept, and I think, it's outside of time. So it's like, I sort of just picture, the flash sideways only sort of has any meaning really from, if you're only looking at it from a certain perspective, right? So, from Jack's perspective, he has his flash sideways where he has this fake son, but, the fake son isn't having, isn't sort of experiencing things like Jack is or anything like that. So I feel like Ana Lucia is having her own sort of independent flash sideways that might coincide with Hurley's when, for whatever reason, when they're together. But I feel like it's such a, when they leave, her thing has to still go on, and I feel like all of these, because this is happening after everybody is dead. This is outside of time. So you can have sort of these infinite flash sideways sort of occurring simultaneously, I think, without it being an issue. So I feel like, Christian sort of had his own and went through it, and, and since all of this takes place outside of time, he can sort of, in effect, walk through his light at the back of the church and do whatever, and then come to Jack's flash sideways to tell him blah, 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 because he's, maybe because he's already been to the next level, so that's why he comes back to explain where they're going, usher them into the next level or whatever. But, you can throw in unicorns and dragons and fairies while we're at it. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I feel about all this. It's so abstract and so whatever that it's, I feel like you can almost just say whatever you want about how it's working.
I agree, but and like I think something like what you're saying has to be true, but on the other hand, I feel like they portrayed it somewhat differently. Like when you have like Miss Hawking, asking Desmond, like, you're not going to bring my son with you, are you? You know, he says, no, I'm not. Like, there's an idea that, you know, if he took Dan with him, then Dan would be gone from that world, and Miss Hawking would be aware of it on some level.
Yeah.
You know, so
I feel like that's true. I feel like Miss Hawking would be aware of it, and it begs the question of what happens to David when Jack leaves, right?
Yeah.
Does he disappear, or does he feel like he's missing a father, and he thinks his father just vanished? So I think, you know, it makes no sense. I think it makes less sense to think of the Flash Sideways as a world where you have to think about rules and laws, and do you put out a missing persons report when somebody flashes, goes to the next reality? Like, you know, I don't think that's true. I think it changes what the world is like. You know, because the Flash Sideways is supposed to be the same world again, but sort of reorganized in a way you can sort of, you know, deal with your problem. So
right.
Since we don't have a problem with people vanishing all the time, they shouldn't have a problem with people vanishing all the time, which to me means David just disappears. And anybody who knew David and Jack just kind of don't remember them.
I think that's what happens, and I think that's why.
And Miss Hawking is a special case. You know, she's outside of time herself, right?
Right.
As any proper British woman is. You know, they get it from the Queen. They get it from the Queen Mother, right?
Of course.
But so I feel like she's a special case, and she kind of has to be because of how her character is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think whatever you said is right.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I see what you mean. So, yeah, it might just be, that is sort of what I pictured, that, like, the world just sort of reorganizes itself so that the absence of those characters makes sense to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there isn't, you know, and Miss Hawking might know well enough to miss that Dan wasn't there, but, like, no one in that world is gonna be freaking out that he's gone.
Exactly. Especially not Charlotte.
Especially not Charlotte. Oh, God. Yeah. So I don't know.
I saw you when you were a little girl. That's not creepy at all. Man, he had a weird ending, didn't he? Jeez.
Mhm. Yeah.
That was weirdness.
It was weirdness. It was weirdness. It really makes me wonder, like, what, you know, if the writer's strike hadn't happened, and we had a full season 4 so they could have given more time to the freighter characters in season 4. It just makes me wonder how those storylines would have developed if they had done that. Because I think their strangeness is partially due to the fact that, you know, that they changed them because of the writer's strike.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because, like, they have the feel to me of, like, larger stories that got cut to a certain extent. Like, there's scenes missing that make them make more sense.
Yeah, totally.
You know? And I don't know. It's very frustrating that they didn't get to do those.
Mhm.
Because I just imagine a more fleshed out version of that story with Dan in the past and you know, meeting Charlotte and Charlotte's mission to find the island.
Like the book version.
Yeah.
Like they could do a lost series of novels, and it'll be the one about the freighter people, and we'll go into detail about all that.
There's plenty there. I mean, you know,
there is.
It would really work. But you know,
I just love it when, you know, Dan's crying when he's seeing the footage of the fake wreckage, and why are you crying? It's because I was time traveling with these people. That's the answer to that.
And I remember it in the future.
Mm-hmm. I future remember it.
Because, you know, I actually died in the 70s because my mom shot me.
But I was just trying to break the laws of physics.
Exactly. What every boy tries to do.
Exactly. Most boys burn ants with a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to prevent us from ever time traveling.
Oh God, yeah, that's like a big standout to me is Frank, like his I was supposed to be the pilot, you know, and then it's like so. Like in the end of the series, I'm left scratching my head like, why does that matter? Like,
well, I like what they did. I mean, they didn't sell me on it, but I think the answer is that the island got him anyway. You know, at least they said that.
That's what they tried to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think him being the pilot is just a way for him to get into the story and be interested in, when they say, okay, we're going to have a season where people are going to come on a freighter and the island, we're going to need a helicopter. Okay, so we're going to need a helicopter. When they're breaking the story and they come up with this character, Frank, they need a reason for him to come to the island and be interested. So I think that's their reason. So it's sort of contrived. And then the answer to that is the island got him anyway. So even though he missed out on being the original pilot, his fate was still tied to the island.
Right.
So it's fine to me.
Yeah.
I don't think you don't get much out of him, out of that whole, I was supposed to be the pilot. I mean, that's all you get is that he's sort of tied to the sort of beginning of the story that way.
I guess that's, again, my own, imagination working too hard to try to turn that into something. I just assume that, oh, my God, he was supposed to be the pilot, and so that means ...
No, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. It just, I think all it means is that like I said, his fate was tied to the island, tied to intersect with the island, and he avoided it by missing his alarm or whatever, but it didn't, they kept hammering that point about the island wanting people, and you could just say maybe Jacob, was Jacob bringing him or something, flashing the lighthouse on him.
Right.
However that works. And,
right.
And sort of pulling him towards the island.
And he ends up being the 316 pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's like he was going to fly to the island eventually somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, by the way the original pilot died, it's like he had way more time with, doing island stuff, because he was doing the freighter stuff and doing the 316 stuff. So, I mean, he could have had a lot less time if he was the original pilot, which means he would have died very, very early on.
Right.
But, But yeah, Frank's weird, because he's, every one of those freighter people had a certain skill, and he was the pilot,
Right.
And the drunk.
Naomi seemed to think that was his greatest skill.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's British, right? So she values a good drinker.
Good point. It's like a physicist, a ghostbuster, an archaeologist, and a drunk.
And then drunk. I missed season 4.
Yeah. Season 4 was great.
Mhm.
Those are good times.
Yeah, it was so much weirdness. Like, oh no, are they there to kill them all? No.
Mhm.
Well, yes, but
well,
no.
Kind of. Some of them are.
See, there's two groups of freighter people.
I guess, Lost never really did.
There's always two groups of something on Lost.
Yeah. And the answers on Lost are always, annoyingly complicated.
Mm-hmm. Are stupidly simple.
Stupidly simple. Exactly. It's usually...
I overreacted is stupidly simple.
It's usually it's often both at the same time.
Yeah. And sometimes neither at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they were kind of stuck on that one because, they had these sympathetic freighter characters that, I think they wanted to bring into the cast, and they really did. But then on the other hand, they wanted the freighter people to be there to kill them all. So I think their solution was to just say that, they had like the freighter was composed of all of these like departments, more or less. Like you sort of had like the freighter crew. They were just people who knew how to like operate a freighter, and I feel like the captain is the head of that. And then you have like the science.
He's also a werewolf too.
He's also a werewolf, a much less refined werewolf.
Yeah.
Who died a very very pointless death.
Oh, True Blood.
And then you have like the science team that Naomi's in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of the nice characters, the ones who aren't there to kill them all.
Yeah.
And then you have the mercenary team that Keamy's the head of, and they're the ones that are going to go kill everybody. But the thing is, the three groups actually, are separate. Like they don't actually know each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there for the same reasons.
It's kind of like the beginning of Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Instead of a 3-hour tour, it's like all these people go to an island, and they had the redhead, they had a suspicious professor.
Yes, they did.
Dan was the professor. I think it's pretty clear. Keamy was Mary Ann. And,
of course. I guess the captain's the skipper.
The captain's definitely the skipper. Who we got? The doctor is Mr. Howell, and
yes,
and Michael is Mrs. Howell.
There you go. Oh, that's right. Michael was on there too. Why not?
Don't forget, Michael was on there too.
Back when he was still alive.
If Jacob wanted Michael to go on the freighter, Jacob would have appeared to Michael and said, "Hey, dude, go on the freighter."
Yeah.
But Ben and Tom go and do that whole thing, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't buy that."
Yeah, no, I think Michael was caught up in the Widmore-Ben feud more than anything.
So many.
Yeah.
Oh, like so many.
But at the same time, Michael, I think, was being sort of plagued / haunted / manipulated by the Man in Black, based on his, guilt over killing Lucy and Libby.
Yeah.
So I think like they made it look like those things coincided, and truth be told, I think at the time they were supposed to. But I think in retrospect, it's sort of like there's two things going on. Ben's using him for his purposes, and then Man in Black is just tormenting him for presumably just for his own amusement. I mean, he didn't really get that much out of it. I mean, I guess maybe he wanted Michael to succeed as well for his own reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole thing. Season 4.
But you think that's the island sort of, because the island won't let Michael kill himself, and he has to like do this mission.
Yeah, because he's the only one who can do that, right?
Well, the island chose him.
He just pulled his name from a hat.
And see, that's where it really should be Jacob.
Yeah.
Because like they had that whole to-do in season 6 about, Jacob gave me a gift and now I can't kill myself, and now you have to do it, and then Jack lights a fuse and then it goes out, and it's the same kind of thing that Michael was experiencing, which makes it seem like Jacob was involved.
Why didn't Jacob and Man in Black work together? Because I'm just thinking, like, what's the best defense for Island? I don't know, a smoke monster that can't be shot.
Yeah.
And since he's killing people anyway, it seems like that, it's like, okay, man, I know I can't let you leave the island, but how about you protect it for 20,000 years, and then I'll let you off for good behavior, I don't know.
You got a point.
It just seems like that's, if Jacob wants the island protected, I just don't really see him really that upset about the freighter people coming. I just don't see him. I mean, unless I'm forgetting some stuff that happened in the show, I'm not remembering that or getting the sense that he was necessarily really invested in preventing the freighter people from getting on the island. You know, to the extent that he would want to send Michael or something like that.
I think he was probably I mean, they were going to, like, torch the island. I could see him, like, so I'm assuming that's, like, just...
Well, yeah, but, I mean, Jughead is sitting at the bottom of a, you know, I mean, like, there's been dangers on the island, coming to the island before.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not an interventionist, intervener. I don't know what the word is. But, you know, it just seems, I'm just not convinced that it's like, oh, yeah, I want Michael to put a bomb on a boat and blow people up, you know, before they get here. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of, I feel like the Man in Black / Ben wanted that.
Yeah.
You know, for their own reasons, that sort of makes sense. In Ben's case, it was just to keep Widmore away, and in Man in Black's case, it's because it's a part of a very, very complicated plan that's going to end with him leaving. But as for Jacob, yeah, I guess, I mean, that's how it looks. I feel like his stakes in it also are he doesn't want the candidates to leave. But on the other hand, I think he does want to, like, give them the choice. So he's not necessarily going to stop them. So they left.
You're saying Jacob doesn't want the candidates to leave, but he's not going to stop them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's
that.
sort of what happened. Like, I don't think he wanted them to leave. Obviously, I mean, he brought them there. He wanted them to replace him. But he's not going to stop them from leaving if they want to leave, if they choose to leave.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm sorry. I lost the point you're making.
I'm trying to explain Jacob's, like, stakes in the freighter.
Oh, his stakes in the freighter. So okay. The freighter in terms of it being away from them to get off the island.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I could see him caring about that. You know, even if he's not stepping in, he would at least, you know, have some kind of opinion on all of his candidates leaving the island en masse.
Yeah, I think he definitely wouldn't stop them. I mean, that's what the barrier's for, right?
I guess.
The coordinate and all that whole thing. Yeah, I mean, what he wants them to leave or not, you know, he let them leave, yet they were all miserable when they left, so what does that really mean, you know? Right. They came back. Yeah, and he did actively, in at least one case, try to get them to come back. You know, and another thing about the freighter crew, all three groups of them really, is that, you know, it's another example of, you know, more losties coming to the island, basically. Yeah. You know, because it could, you know, the show could start with the freighter people. You know, sure. Our original losties could be Dan and Charlotte and the Milestone guys or something like that, and, you know, dealing with Keeney's team or something, and they're, you know, all that. So it's, you know. It's interesting how it's just, you know, that's part of the theme of Lost is these different groups of people continuously coming to the island. Yeah, they had their own experience of being stranded there, basically, and being, you know, caught up in its strangeness. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the show could have started with Rousseau. Yeah, absolutely. And it would have been boring. Yeah, the show would get boring pretty fast. But damn it would answer a few questions first. Like, who is this Asian guy? Where did he go? And it'd be like seasons later, then we finally meet Jen and be like, whoa, that's the guy from season 1. Yeah. All right, you ready to start the old podcast?
After I say one more thing.
All right.
Like earlier you mentioned that, they could do a whole nother season about, like, the Egyptians and stuff like that. I totally agree. And, like, that's one of the things, like, when I watch season 6, one of the many things that I really feel like is frustrating, like, they took the time to give certain degrees of background to things. I mean, they spent a whole episode on Richard's origin, and they.
You know how I felt about that one.
Yes, I do. Infamous. Apaterno. Goes into that podcast if you want to hear some divisiveness. And if you want to hear even more, there was the Jacob and Man in Black backstory. Right? So in each case, it's one episode apiece. I mean, Jacob and Man in Black, like, it's even more ridiculous. But even if you just look at Richard, I feel like what they told us about him is like a fraction of the interesting stories they could tell about Richard.
Yeah.
Like the one thing they did with him and Juliet's flashback, his original introduction, like, that was cool. But, like, I want to see, like, how they transition from Richard being the only person on the island alive besides Jacob and the Man in Black to an entire group of others and a whole, like, system of rules and organization and stuff like that. And, like, I would like that story filled out.
Yeah.
I like to see how that happens and why, and sort of what the others think they're doing there. What are they told about Jacob? Like,
what was the orientation before the orientation?
Yes. Like, the others will talk about Jacob, and we know, like, Richard at least met him, so he has some idea of what Jacob is like. But, like, what do the others who don't know Jacob think about him? Like, what is their perspective? Do they realize, for example, that he brings people to the islands? Do they know that he has a feud with the Black Smoke Monster about whether or not people are good? And that's why he brings people there. Do they know that? Richard knows that.
Do they know that he voted Republican twice in the 80s?
No, I don't need that detail addressed, but hey, if they're at it, bonus, maybe a little deleted scene or something. That's cool.
Do they know he has an outstanding $200 bill with Visa? He still is not paid. Who is the man they're following? Yeah, I know, I agree. I mean, there's so much, I was just going to say, everything you just said doesn't matter. So it's like, that's what's weird is all of those questions are interesting, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, they spend a season, the season 3 is the other season, and it doesn't matter. Like, it kind of really doesn't matter. Anything we learned about the others at the end doesn't really matter. So even the more detailed questions you're asking now, they're just like, that's not going to get, I agree that that kind of stuff is interesting, but they just didn't make it matter, or else they would have gone down that avenue. Right.
I mean, I agree that it doesn't matter the plot, and that's a fair reason not to include it. But what I'm saying is, like, they inserted, like, these little snapshots of the others at various times. So we get, like, this vague sense of the development. We see them in the 50s, we see them in the 70s, we see them in the 80s, see them in the 90s, we do get, like, a sense of a part of their progression. But, like, the problem is, like, when they show them, they still haven't revealed to us what Jacob is. They haven't revealed a lot of the big secrets. So whenever they bring up Jacob, like, everybody just gets all, like, goggly-eyed and, like, no one says a word.
Yeah.
Like when Ben's telling Juliet, like, Jacob's going to heal your sister, and, like, you can't question Jacob, what does she think about that? Like, we never find out. And, like, to me, it's interesting enough, like, this group, like, I guess, God damn it, just the idea of the others is interesting to me, and I just feel like it's underdeveloped. It's so not fleshed out. Like, I watch these faceless zombies in season 6, like, following the guy who killed Jacob, who, you know, has wanted to kill him for thousands of years, and just, like, walking into, you know, Widmore's mortar shell. Their former leader bombs them. Like, they just they just seem so clueless. It's ridiculous, you know, and I just wonder, like, what that background's supposed to be, because I feel like the show doesn't provide, you know, the details for me to actually understand, like, what the experience of being a redshirt other is like.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's not an encyclopedia.
It's not an encyclopedia.
Oh.
I wish it were. But, like, that's just, you know, obviously, you know, the Egyptians and all that is filling out another facet of the story, but I just think a big frustration for me is, like, the vague suggestion of interesting background, but not actually fleshing it out to actually make it interesting. You know,
that's called writing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they're only going to... Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I'm totally with you. It's one of those things, I think, where it's like, I mean, overall they did that in most of the cases, right? Like they'll tell you, they'll make it clear the statue is Taweret, right? And
yeah.
They'll say, okay, God is the fertility or whatever, and hey fans that are paying attention, this ties into the problems the others were having, but, you know, they didn't go into more detail about that. You know, they didn't actually connect all the dots as to what that even meant. You know, we never found out. Like, that was a major plot point on the show, this fertility issue, and we never got, you know, that was never solved. Like, they just gave up.
Yeah, and that just makes me wonder, like after Ben leaves, that in that intermediate period of 3 years, you know, did they continue to have fertility problems? Did it matter to anyone? Did anyone even care? Did anybody
I don't
care?
think so. I don't think anybody cared. They were too busy walking through the jungle to try to have babies.
Was it that, like, only Ben cared about the fertility problems? I mean, I guess I felt like, you know, it was taking a toll on them. And, like, you know, that mobisode...
They never fully explained why that was even an issue. It wasn't like Jacob had a proclamation to you know, reproduce.
Right.
You know, they never made it seem like that, or that, you know, the only people we can trust are our own people, and so we need to start making sure we can, you know, repopulate the island or something like that. You know, it was just, Ben is interested in this fertility issue. You know, the others are because he is, and that's about it. That's the best I think you can say about it.
Like with the mobisode with Ethan, where he talks about his wife dying in childbirth, and, like, you know, tying that into the episode we're going to watch, that was their attempt, I think, to explain, you know, the toll that the fertility problems were taking on the others. Like, it produced a monster such as Ethan, you know? Mm-hmm. So, like to me, there is, like, some kind of suggestion that, like, it was, you know, because, you know, just people, whoever they may be, others or non-others, you know, generally want to reproduce. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, not being able to do that, I can imagine, you know, causing, you know, at least social problems. Mm-hmm. You know, particularly for this very tribal group, you know, that you know very much is very much insulated from the outside world. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really have a lot of influx of immigrants.
Yeah, well, they kind of do. People are always showing up on that island, but
the others aren't accepting them. I mean, the others are mostly.
Well, but that's the thing. You know, you can go by the early idea of the others, where they had lists by which they decided who was worthy to keep or not. So they did have some sense of, you know, adding people to their ranks, but that ties into the Dharma stuff too. So
yeah.
But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my final thought for the Green Room.
Well,
I'll leave it there.
It's I feel like sometimes, you know, like I think we said last podcast, some other shows, these answers would be fine, It's like, Lost paints a painting, and it's like, oh, you stand at a certain distance and you go, okay, that's nice, but it's like we stand up close with a magnifying glass and say, you missed a brushstroke here. Why did you leave this brushstroke out?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean something? Does that mean something? You left this brushstroke here. There's no, it's red in this area, yet there's a green spot. Like what does that mean? So it's tough sometimes. I think to as much fun as it is to speculate, it's tough to know what obviously we try to be reasonable in expectations, but it's tough when there's so many different areas where it feels like you're being reasonable, yet and it's just there's so many elements that make it that way. But not the least of which is that writing is hard. But
right, right, I understand.
I still won't forgive them for Christian not saying you have what it takes. That
it's a big one. It's a big one. I understand.
That's the only one I needed. Locke didn't really get his. Locke didn't really get to make his peace with his dad, did he? I mean, what was his big? I guess he forgave Ben. I mean, was that supposed to be his big thing?
I feel like Locke's big thing was. What was Locke's big thing? I think it was, God, I have no idea. I was about to try to say something, but I have nothing. Something.
I think that's bad. I think that's bad. Much as we've talked about Lost, and we can't figure out what his big thing was. I mean, his Flash Sideways was the whole thing with him and Ben, so I guess he had gotten over his dad issue before he died or something?
Yeah. I guess so. I think there was also, I think part of it was also the wheelchair thing.
What about it?
Like coming to terms with his limitations.
How did he do that?
I guess by allowing Jack to do the surgery.
Okay, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I thought that was about believing in miracles.
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Or something to do with like having hope or faith. Wasn't that? You're saying it was about him understanding his limitations.
Yeah, and also like being willing to ask someone else for help.
Okay.
I also feel like it was about repairing the relationship he had with Jack.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I actually feel like, Locke's thing should have been, learning to not take things on faith so much.
Right.
Not believe that everything that he sees is a sign or is some kind of, pointer to destiny or some kind of ultimate path to, something that's going to matter.
Well, see, that'd be bad because that's exactly what takes him to Jack, right?
Yeah.
Helen's like, hey, you met this doctor. What? You should go. That's lucky. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I feel like those two are kind of different points they'd have to try to make.
It would be hard to fit them together because the whole thing is about the the random circumstances that bring them all together. And
this idea that it's a long shot, but he should at least try it.
Yeah. So that really conflicts, but I feel like his undoing, like his biggest problem, was being too willing to, believe things he was told and, follow what people told him to do without questioning it.
Are we supposed to think that that Locke, that the reason, when Locke gets on the island and he can walk again and he feels like he's on, his destiny is coming to fruition, are we supposed to think that's the impetus of that, is Richard coming to him, telling him he was special and all that stuff? Like somehow that got in his head, and so when he gets to the island, it sort of fulfills that? Or are we supposed to think that's sort of separate?
Yeah, I'm not sure. My impression is that, Richard's visits didn't really have an impact on him.
But yeah, that's what I always thought. But now I'm trying to look at it, and it's it's obviously more cyclical. If the same way that Richard thinks, the only reason Richard thinks Locke is the leader is because Locke comes back in time and says, "I'm your leader," and then Richard goes and then does a test on young Locke, the young Locks, over time. All that stuff. I'm just wondering if we're supposed to think that fed him in this idea. Even because he kept thinking, that was weird because obviously he kept saying, he didn't think he was special, but when he gets to the island, he thinks he's special. So I don't know, just popped in my head that maybe we're supposed to think that that's why he always thought he was destined for something great. Because otherwise I don't know where he got that idea. Because when we see him in the, walkabout days, when we see him, he wants to go on this walkabout. I mean, he has this idea he's got this great thing ahead of him. And I don't know where that comes from, considering that, or I guess, the flashbacks tell us that Abaddon told him stuff like that, too.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, if it's just this weird cyclical thing where he really wasn't ever special, but somebody told him he was, because he told that person he was, and so it fed it back to him. And so when he gets to the island, he has this grand. It fulfills this idea that he already has, that he's supposed to go on this big thing.
I mean, I think that is sort of true. Like as far as his personal characteristics, it's not clear exactly how much, but in terms of this idea that he's special, I do think that is cyclical. I do think that the reason why some people on the island think he's special, like some of the others and so on, is because he comes to believe he's special, and he time travels, and he tells them that he's their leader in the past. And so basically because he did that, that's why they think that. But then because they think that gives them the idea to time travel.
We say that some more.
So it's basically a self-preserving loop of, him telling himself that he's special to make sure that he'll tell himself that he's special.
Wow. That sounds like a very needy personality.
Yeah. But I think something of the idea you're suggesting is true. Like this guy coming to recruit him and giving him this test, and then he gets recruited later. I think that is kind of investing with this idea that he should be unique or special in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And he himself is the one who caused that stuff to happen. So, it's weird that he influenced his own, younger self.
And what's weirder, of course, is you take all those different versions and loops and stuff, and then on top of that, the next level out is Man in Black orchestrating that.
Right.
After reading Locke's mind and sort of ostensibly knowing all that history.
Yes.
I mean, that's a question to ask, right? Does Man in Black, did he read Locke's mind and see that Locke time traveled and said, hey, I know how to make a loophole. This guy time traveled. I can use it,
Mm-hmm.
Or was it just he saw this guy had a belief that he was special and in tune to the island and used him that way? But, that's the other thing is you have Man in Black orchestrating all that time travel stuff and using Locke's personality against him. Right.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with the Christian Shepherd appearance, there's showing the son and Frank the Dharma photo. I feel like there's an insinuation that he was aware of the time traveling.
Mhm. Yeah, but, is he aware because he was around during all that time? Or is he aware because he read Locke's mind and knew Locke specifically was time traveling?
Right. Well, I mean, he definitely was on the island when the stuff was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to say that he sort of he sort of knew in advance, he already knew that Locke had been there, and so when he runs into Locke, he realizes that this is the guy that was there in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knows that basically he knows that his plan is going to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
His plan that he hasn't thought of yet, but he's already set in motion.
Yeah. That's the problem with time travel. Something can happen before you make it happen. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like the effects come before the causes.
Mm-hmm.
Which really doesn't make any sense.
No, it shouldn't.
But yeah, I think when he read his mind, he did realize that he had time traveled and that he could utilize that, and that actually he was going to be the one to cause it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knew that he could orchestrate this thing where he had, he has the donkey wheel turned and stuff.
Like I say, it's pretty amazing he lost his battle, right, with all his powers.
I know. I try to reconcile this character I'm describing to you with some of the scenes I was watching, and it's like, God, if that guy was that awesome, he really shouldn't have lost. You're so right.
Yeah.
He should have been way more formidable.
I feel like Ben and the others, when they were doing that whole pulling people's files out and reading to them who they were, I feel like they knew more about the characters than Man in Black did sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah, that shouldn't have been true. Man in Black, I mean, maybe they knew more facts, but Man in Black should have a better, Yeah,
it just seems like he didn't really read everybody's mind or something.
Yeah.
He only did it to some people, or, it just seems like he should have just been a step ahead of everyone all the time, and he wasn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, he just got really, he was really cool and amazing before they revealed who he was.
Yeah.
And then when he takes to center stage, he's just kind of underwhelming.
Mhm.
And it's like his big powers are, he can still do the smoke monster thing, but mostly he can just talk you into stuff. Maybe. And
not take credit for you running into trees.
And yes, and he'll try to be really nice.
Mhm.
And that's about it.
He might whittle you something.
He just might whittle you something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you're real lucky, he'll try to blow you up in a submarine.
That's true. Yeah, and so there, I watched a little of that too, where he takes the wristwatch off the guy he just killed, and then goes into the plane and finds the explosives, and quickly rigs together this crazy bomb that's gonna that's gonna kill them, so that they have to trigger it, and so he doesn't violate the rules, and it's that seems more like the crazy Man in Black, I guess. But still, it just, because of the way they portrayed him before that, it just kind of seems implausible. Could he really pull that off?
Mhm.
Where did he learn how to program bombs? Did he?
He stole it from Saeed's head.
Oh, okay.
Don't you remember that whole episode where they talked about how Man in Black can extract skills out of the people that he scans? Remember that?
I forgot that one.
How they went into great detail about how he works and what it means to be a smoke monster?
No, I don't remember that one at all. But yeah.
If that was their special feature. Deleted episode.
That is another deleted episode. I want to put that with a detailed history of the others and what they think about Jacob. Like, the smoke monster and his multifaceted powers.
Yeah.
How to be a smoke monster and why.
And what did the others call themselves? How come they never had a name unto themselves?
Yeah, they really should have had a name.
They were only known by what they're not, they were called by other people. That's so weird.
We only got, like, their enemies' names for them.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. Yeah. I mean, I feel like for whatever reason the Lost Riders, like, struggle to name things. You know? And like that's why they didn't give Man in Black a name either. You know, and also they didn't give the island a name.
Yeah. Better that way.
But yeah, I think the Man in Black could he could talk to animals. He could be in two places at once. He could
Wait, he could be in two places at once?
Yeah. That's one of his powers. I read about it in the encyclopedia.
What?
Yeah.
When is he in two places at once?
There's two times in the show when he's in two places at once.
Okay.
The first time is when he's Christian with Sun and Frank, and he's also Locke on the Hydra Islands. Those two things happen simultaneously.
Okay.
And then the second time is on the Black Rock when he appears as Isabella, and at the same time as the smoke monster outside the ship.
Okay. So he really underused that power.
He sure did.
I mean, that's a spectacular power, because it's not just being a version of you in the same place in two different places. It's, you can look like somebody else and a smoke monster in a different place. So you could literally like convince people of things by having two apparitions appear, and you go, hey, yeah, we should do this thing. This person agrees with me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, yeah, well, these people, yeah, I'll do what they say. I mean, like, wow, that's such an incredible power.
It is. It is. It's amazing that they never even mentioned that he had that power in the show.
I feel like the second example, the one with Isabella, is just a product of how they shot that scene. Because...
I mean, I say that because, like, the encyclopedia specifically says, like, he used his power to be in two places at once. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's what he did.
Yeah, that's weird, but what was the other one? Oh, when he... Yeah, and I always thought the thing when Locke is on the island and then Christian appears to, Sun and Frank, I thought, this is, if you were trying to find Locke on the Hydra Island, you wouldn't find him. He just zaps over. I feel like if you asked him, can you be in two places at once? He would say, do you think if I could do that, I'd still be here?
I think that's exactly what he would say. I feel like you really have a read on that character.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he just, if you ask him something he should be doing, he's like, I didn't do that.
Huh? I didn't do nothing to you.
Hey, nothing to me. Yeah, no, he's crazy. He's crazy that way.
Yeah.
But, all right, you ready to get into the episode? I think this has been the longest Green Room so far.
I agree. Yeah, it's gone on pretty a length. Yeah, we should. I'll just throw in also he can influence dreams.
Of course he can.
Yet another power that they really didn't exploit at all once he was revealed.
He should have been inundating everybody with crazy dreams.
Absolutely.
To kill themselves or something.
Yeah. Why were there no dreams in seasons 5 and 6? Like
they were too busy time traveling.
But like they played such a pivotal role in terms of moving the plot forward in the first few seasons. Like dreams would lead them places. Like it's just so weird that like once Man in Black.
You don't need dreams when you have a character.
Yeah.
Telling people what to do. But,
right.
I think that's their answer for that.
But I think psychologically, like influencing their dreams would help him. still.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Like even if he's there. Yeah.
He could have kept doing that, yeah.
And I think it just could have been cool. Like I'd like to see him continue to like influence their dreams as he's, trying to lead them into his trap.
Mhm.
I think that could have been interesting. But
it's really hard to influence dreams. I mean, you saw Inception, right?
Mhm.
That's a lot of work. Whew. A lot of work.
Fair enough. I don't want to try.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us in the Green Room. We'll be starting the podcast.
Indeed.
Welcome to the Lost Lowdown Podcast 97 with your hosts, Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We're continuing our commentary series back with episode 115, Homecoming. And I think there's one pregnant homecoming queen that everyone's going to be looking towards.
Son?
I guess, yeah, exactly. So that'll be next season.
Oh, okay, that's right. I guess she's not pregnant yet.
She's not pregnant yet. But before we get to the episode, we wanted to dig into our digital mailbag.
Digital mailbag.
Yeah, exactly. Play the cue. And so we got some a comment from a listener.
Yes, we did.
Matt from fellow Lost podcaster, Matt from Keys to Lost podcast. Hey, Matt, how's it going? Thanks for emailing us.
Hey, from me too. What's up, yo?
So, what was Matt talking about, Justin?
His email was about, it was basically about the ghosts and their motivations, what they were doing versus the Flash Sideways, afterlife characters.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that in a previous podcast, and
did we?
Yeah, I believe we did. You may or may not remember. So he was basically offering his take on how you should interpret. Actually, it's kind of all encompassing. Like he went beyond, what's up with the ghosts. He turned it into here's what's up with the ghosts, and here's what's up with the Flash Sideways, and here's how that ties into the island.
Nice.
So if I were to summarize the theory, I would say it's something like I sort of have to set the whole thing up. So the fact that the characters on the show were in some way involved with the plan for sort of protecting the island, that enabled them to have some kind of how do I want to say it? Have some kind of access, I guess, to the power source on the island. And
the light source.
Yeah, and that is sort of what they walk through at the end of the show. Like that's actually the same light. That's so the theory goes. Mm-hmm. And basically the ghosts that appear to Hurley are actually post walking into the source characters who now, as a show of gratitude, or I don't know, something along those lines, now they appear to Hurley and maybe to others in order to sort of further the cause of protecting the island. That
like when Hurley sees Ana Lucia,
yeah,
telling him to go back to the island, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or Charlie. Like basically the idea.
It's not Charlie from a Flash Sideways Purgatory world. It's Charlie post all that.
Right. So the original issue was in the Flash Sideways, they don't seem to, Charlie doesn't seem to remember visiting Hurley, and Lucia doesn't remember visiting Hurley, So the theory goes that the ghosts that we saw are actually after all of that, so that they do remember. And not only that, like their connection with the island is what is the reason why they're advocating for the island as ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's basically the theory.
Yeah.
And you know, my response to it is that I don't even exactly disagree. I don't think it's necessarily not true. All I can say is that I just don't feel like there's anything conclusive in the show to say that it is true. You know.
I like the idea, and I think I like being able to tie, you know, these three big things together. You know, but something like the light, you know, and I think again it's something that they left to the subtext, the connection with the light and the flash sideways and the light in the light cave, and I wish they would have made it explicit that was connected or the same or something like that, but they never really did.
They should have.
The problem is, you know, when you get into abstract concepts like the afterlife and goodness and, you know, whatever the light cave is supposed to be, the you know, life and death or whatever, you know, it's hard to show that except for very simple ways like having light, you know. So it seems like it could be a coincidence that there's light in the light cave and light that they walk through when they walk out of the church, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a classic image. Like, it's sort of like the show could have had nothing to do with light in terms of the mythology, and still ended that way. You know.
Yeah.
So
they leave themselves open to connecting the two because they get so abstract with how they depict it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would have loved to hear, you know, when Christian Shepherd comes out and says that he has to say about the Flash Sideways. You know, he says that this is a place we made together, and it was so you could find each other, remember, and let go and move on. You know, and that's all he says. You know, he never even mentions the island as having anything to do with it. And I just feel like if that were true, that was the time to say it. You know, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's not true, but I feel like they did not communicate that it was true.
I think it goes on the long list of good answers to questions, you know, that you can't really say is right or wrong, but it's like, well, this is a good answer to the question, but you know, it's tough to say what they're really what they're really trying to get at because they don't actually, you know, make the connection. So
right. Exactly. And then also, you know, you have like Michael appearing to Hurley as a ghost, advocating for the island, but he's definitely not walked through the light and moved on. I mean, they specifically tell us that that's not what happened.
Yeah, and Michael speaks from a place as if he's sort of in the present, like, you know, he isn't past time like those people who went through the light or whatever.
Right. Right. And then you even have, like, say, Isabella showing up to Hurley, and she's advocating for the island. She was never even on the island. Like, she didn't have a clue, but she's, you know, now she's on the side of the island. Like, what did she have to do with the island ever? You know, like, so to me it's still pretty nebulous why the ghosts advocate for the island. Like, I'm not quite buying that they have to be connected to it in their lives. Like, it doesn't seem like that's true. It seems like if you're dead, you just automatically side with the island for whatever reason. You know, I almost imagine the Man in Black himself, after he dies, he's going to, you know, appear to people telling them to help the island. You know, it doesn't even matter that he, you know, spent his whole life trying to destroy it.
Yeah, you've got to protect the island. You'll finally realize it's true.
Yeah, like being dead, you just realize that for reasons left unexplained.
Well, it's the same reason why in the afterlife you don't ask questions about the island because you're just past it. It's, you know, you're dead. So what do you care?
Right. Right. Exactly. So it's weird. There's one more thing that I'll throw in about the afterlife on Lost. If I could say anything positive about it, it's that, you know, as many negative things as we said about it, it's that I like the idea that there's actually no higher authority that they present. Like, it's a place that they have to figure out for themselves again, you know? So it's not, and even, it's even said that they made it for themselves. Like, so the Flash Sideways are kind of no different from the real world, you know?
It's another chance at, it gives the sense that that's all sort of, you know, consciousness is, you know, is this various realities where you are presented problems and you figured them out, and you know, at least the first two levels. So, although I feel like maybe, you know, there's some people who go straight to, you know, they can, what is it in Monopoly? Skip Joe and go straight. No.
Do not pass go. Oh, that's the bad one.
That's the bad one. Yeah. Well, the good version of, you know, going directly to the afterlife, you know, they worked out all their problems before they died.
Right.
So they don't need a flash sideways.
Yes, right.
I mean, I think that's a class of people, right? I mean, I don't know. We didn't see that, but I'm just assuming maybe that's true.
It seems like it would be possible, yeah. I don't see why not. But, you know, like, regardless, you don't have guides there. I mean, you don't have, like, literally, like, supernatural beings showing up and, you know, basically telling them why they're there and what they're supposed to do, and the fact that they, you know, they set up this place for them, you know. I have another specific show in mind here.
Yeah.
So if I can say one positive thing about Lost, it's that, you know, even though it portrays an afterlife, it's still an afterlife where the people in it have to figure things out for themselves. They're not pushed this way and that by deities.
Only other people like Desmond can push them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's down to other people to make things happen.
Yeah.
So, and people that, you know more or less, you know, who are going on their own, you know, interpretation of things and what they mean and what they should do and why, you know. I mean, some of the stuff Desmond does, I think it's questionable whether he really needed to do all that. Like, did he really need to hit lock with the car? Was that really necessary?
I don't think he needed to do any of that. I think everybody would have figured out. I mean, right? Isn't that the whole point? Is that they should have, or at least it's designed for them to figure it out on their own, in their own way.
Yeah.
But what we saw was just, you know, a version where Desmond instigates for a lot of people. Yeah.
Desmond's like strangeness, because he actually visits the afterlife while he's still alive. Causes him to be, causes him to be the first one to remember, and so I guess that he decides he's going to be the instigator in terms of getting everyone else to remember.
It's not unlike Inception, where they're all lost in purgatory. I mean limbo.
Oh yes, totally different.
The other purgatory.
Yes, yeah, and, you know, I think Inception actually, I think Limbo in Inception portrays a version of the same idea as the Flash Sideways. Actually, I want to say, in a way, like, better executed. Yeah, I feel like it captures a lot of the ideas of the Flash Sideways in a more powerful way. Yeah. Because I think the Flash Sideways is kind of polluted by the fact that it's pretending to be an alternate universe a lot of the time.
Going around pretending to be an alternate universe. I hate when realities do that.
Me too. Me too. And so I feel like that kind of ruins it. Yeah. But not completely, but in terms of like what its purpose is supposed to be. I think Inception really hit the nail on the head with the idea of this, you know, making this place for yourself out of your own memories. Yeah.
And getting lost in that,
yeah.
Well, enough about good stories. Let's talk about homecoming.
Oh.
I kid homecoming. I kid.
And just to wrap up, thanks for the email. And I have heard the Case Loss podcast a couple times. It may or may not still be running. There are a couple new ones up, but if you're into like the music, it's all about that. It's
the music of loss.
Yeah, and like largely on a technical side in terms of like, you know, what key is it in, and you know, like what instruments they're using and how they fit together, and themes and variations and stuff like that. It's pretty cool if you're into that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of music to pick apart if you're interested.
Mm-hmm. Cool, yeah, thanks for emailing us. And again, if anybody wants to send us a shout out, and you can catch us where, Justin?
Oh, God, us? Well, lostlowdown@gmail.com if you want to send an email.
Nice, there it is.
Boom. We read them. This is proof.
This is proof. We're proving it. All righty. Let's do the countdown and get started.
Cool. Can't wait for this one.
Can't you now?
No, I can't.
I think with that long green room, I think you can.
All right. Well, you know.
Okay, guys and girls, we will do the old 3, 2, 1, go, and press play on our players on go.
All right.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, no. Do you think that guy has superpowers?
Sure do.
Maybe we'll find his lair.
Humans can't step on chests like that.
That was a sternum. He's a doctor, you see.
Ah, yes.
Wow, so we have to think about 2 doctors fighting in that scene.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really think about that. I don't think he's a doctor yet, though.
Speaking of doctor.
Looking for the dog? Really, Locke? Only because of the tumult can you get away with that excuse.
You know, this is another one of those things where somebody comes out of the jungle weak, and in the next scene they're just totally passed out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Breathe, Claire, breathe.
Standard. Wake up now. Okay.
It's like she's hypnotized. That's all it is. Give her the magic word. It's okay, I'm your brother.
Ah!
Oh no, amnesia.
Oh, Claire.
This just feels so counterfeit. Lost.
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel counterfeit?
Yeah.
Who are you people? Don't worry, dear. You'll remember very shortly who they are.
Yeah, how many scenes? Like 2 or 3?
Yes. Top. Tom Cruise's cousin.
Do you remember Tom Cruise?
pesky British rocker.
See, that's really recent.
Mhm. That was like 2 weeks ago.
Your memory's not that bad. Whoa, it's been a month?
A month ago.
Episode 15?
That's
All
kind of
right.
weird.
That is weird. Ooh, gotcha.
Oh, got that question again. Yeah, Las Video says this is days 27 through 29 for this episode.
Oh, okay.
They had a couple of episodes that were 2 days.
I see.
What are they talking about?
Claire.
Of course. He doesn't believe her.
Mm-mm.
That's my I know you know English face.
Why are you looking for the dog there?
Mhm. Wow, Claire was gone for 2 weeks.
Apparently.
OMG.
That was episode 10. So 5 episodes or 2 weeks?
Yeah, wow.
Time was crazy, season 1.
Time was crazy in season 1. I think time was crazy in some other seasons, too.
All right. I don't remember her having that at all. I just thought she didn't remember, like, what happened when she got kidnapped.
Mhm.
Which, like, to me is obviously a contrivance so that they don't have to reveal anything.
Yeah, exactly. This is when we get Ethan's flashback.
Yeah.
I was expecting a whoosh to get Ethan's flashback.
It would make sense.
Because he thought he had killed me. He left me hanging in a tree. I won't mention that part. Does your accent sound different? Or is she just being, like, weird because she has amnesia?
Maybe she forgot her accent.
We're lovers. You know you want to say that.
She really does.
We're married.
Oh, we're friends, all right.
Yeah, exactly. That's my baby. He can tell her that's his baby.
He really could. I think she'd have to believe him.
At least till the baby was born.
I think he could still pull it off.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, God.
Dude, you're French.
You know, there's barely a difference.
Mhm. No idea.
They're in London.
Okay. I'm another.
So I guess, like, the band is not happening, and he's resorting to petty crime.
I see.
Wow, everybody's playing on the jukebox.
Mhm. Yeah, the guy just put that on.
Oh, we actually put it on.
Yeah,
Okay.
before Charlie started talking, we see that guy go put it on the jukebox.
I see. Well,
nice.
She had the escape of the French woman.
Mhm. Well, see, Saeed doesn't have that information to factor into his theory.
That's true. He is on the right track, though. She didn't escape on her own.
I just love that he's second guessing what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. It's classic Saeed.
Yeah.
A lot. It's one season from now, exactly.
Huh? What's his problem?
Why is he walking with Jen?
He's on his way to go talk to Claire, and I guess he just caught up to Jen.
Okay.
So something's got to happen, right? And something crazy's got to happen. Otherwise, why are we talking?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing's happening at the scene right now.
Hush! The plot is moving forward.
Oh, that's right. Kabam.
Oh, geez. Wow, Smokey's throwing rocks now?
Really should be him. But it's that guy.
See, this is another... Oh, wow. That's scary.
Yeah, he looks really scary. That shot. And his face is scratched inexplicably.
Mhm.
Here's where he lifts him up. By his neck.
Well, you have to talk to him eye to eye, right?
Yeah.
Because he's short. Because I faked signing that Hippocratic oath. I wrote Daffy Duck. Imagine how scary it would be if he was like, if I don't get her back, my deity will kill you all.
Yeah.
He will give you all spinal cancer. One at a time.
And mentally.
Where are their guns? Who's got a gun? Isn't there a gun?
They got the case of guns.
Who knows about that?
Jack.
Well, Locke just said, we don't want to be unarmed, and why isn't he bringing up the gun? Uh-oh, here we go. Uh-oh.
I don't actually have a plan.
Yeah, cut, please. I don't have a plan. What others did you say? The others?
Why do you want the others to talk to you, Claire?
It'd be funny if he was like, Claire, they didn't talk to you before the accident either. You think she's joking? She's like, surely you jest.
That sounds stupid.
While I was gone for 2 weeks, you guys built a golf course. You must be trying to lighten me up, lighten the mood. Oh, she's gonna get disappointed pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
With the side of sex, please.
A lump of sex.
So he's just going to try to steal something valuable?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just like casing her place.
Something on display she'll never notice is missing.
Winston Churchill's.
Of course. Everyone who's British has something of Churchill's in their house. Royal law. I wish we had kings like Churchill. I kid. I know. Was he?
What?
They're really slow playing this backstory of his.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Kate. I was in a tree and I got this for you.
That's so what happened.
Yep. So this is obviously the beginning of the drama with the others.
Yeah.
And this is the point Ethan should have said, hey, my people, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Claire is safe, don't worry.
Yeah. You see, we got these fertility problems. She's pregnant. And, just
like,
as
for all they know, Jack could help.
Yeah, absolutely. And they know who Jack is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the bag of cans!
The bag of cans.
Yes!
That's going to stop any intruder, right, Justin?
The worst trap ever.
Oh, man. I remember that podcast.
I'll never forget it. God.
How's that bag of cans going to stop anybody?
Ethan seemed pretty strong. I just don't see why dropping a bag of cans in his head's really going to do anything. But whatever, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Your plan.
That's weird.
Wow. They have not had dinner with impressive people. This plot seems vaguely like Match Point.
Mm-hmm. They're speaking tennis.
Yeah.
They weren't like drive shafts. kind of digging himself in a hole here. He should just shut up.
Yeah. The mood is plummeting.
So the answer to this question was no. Are you recording a new album? No, sir. End of scene. The perfect plan. The problem with that logic, of course, is if he does have a fix, then Wednesday will be bloody awful, right? I mean, at a certain point, someday it's going to have to be bloody awful if you're going to continue to do drugs.
Yeah. It's true.
Look at Boone.
I know. I don't know why, but he comes off weird when he tries to be the tough guy.
Boone?
Yeah, Boone.
Yeah, because he's not a tough guy.
Yeah. And he falls asleep.
He's falling asleep.
Ken bag?
The alarm went off. He's just running in a random direction.
Yeah.
And we cut.
Didn't help at all. I'll get him.
Gonna spear someone.
Russell, Russell, Russell. All right, I'm going to stab whoever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Not if I...
Oh.
God, he fell first. And it's Vincent?
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
Quick, stab him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Way to go, Boo.
Did I lick your face? I did a good job. See, that's Vincent doing that stuff on purpose. That looked like a puppet, that last shot. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
It looked like they had a puppet as for Vincent. It's like Vincent was a diversion.
Yeah. Yeah. Ethan sent him in.
He's Aquaman. Jeez, Ethan. Uh-oh.
Oh. Wow, fucking Scott gets a funeral.
Scott gets a funeral. Who knew? Wow.
Like, that's crazy. There's way bigger characters that don't get a funeral.
This is when they're trying to make it seem like the red shirts are just as important.
Yeah. That character standing next to Hurley, he didn't get a funeral.
No. Those people don't get a funeral. She's getting water. No funeral for her.
She didn't really need a funeral. But she didn't get one.
No. Technically, you are. So you're a liar. You're evil incarnate.
Well, that baby?
Now tell me who I am. Sweating like a hog. This is Penny and Desmond.
Yeah.
He's trying to look good for their father and all that stuff, and he's got the hookup at the job.
Oh, yeah. Said the father actually wants to help, and he's actually trying to steal stuff.
Mhm. But I had drugs on stage.
It's so true.
Mhm.
That's the difference. I feel like he should have just done the drugs.
Yeah. Well,
You
he can't do the drugs yet because he's got to steal this first, right? He didn't steal anything to get drug money.
Oh, he's got to steal a thing to get the drugs. Okay.
Yeah. Really, I mean, what's weird is if he had a fix now, he might be able to get through the first week or two at work or something, and then have enough money to buy his own drugs.
Yeah.
Because that's what's weird is he's trying to be respectable and actually get a job.
Yeah.
And not just steal to make his living,
Right. But it's just a bad time to blow it.
It is.
Like, it would be better if he could get through this and then quit later. Just practically, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting anyone go do heroin. I wasn't listening. Sorry. What did you say?
Don't let this scar on my eye fool you. I'm not a badass.
I think now he's going to bring up the guns.
Yeah. This is where I summon the smoke monster.
Oh, God damn it. That'd be hilarious.
For those people who are listening and not watching the video, of course, I'm kidding. He's not. He's opening the case of guns. Never shot a gun before in my life. Now, I guess he's got hunting experience with old daddy, right?
Yes.
That is like that's the only thing you can do to show that you know how to work a gun.
Mhm.
So, like, take out the clip, make sure it's loaded, look at the sights, make sure it's lined up, and you prove you know how to use a gun.
That is like movie shorthand.
Mhm. Back in the westerns, it was you flip the gun on your finger, right?
Mhm.
And then put it back in the holster. Besides my guitar. Solid pace, useless as usual.
Mhm. As useless in his flashback as he is in his present.
This is how a copier works. This is such a weird, presentation. These people are gonna, they're driving him. Really, guys? Listen, if you can't beat the previous guy's copy record, then we're not gonna buy your copier. Guys.
And they're playing this weird, jaunty mandolin stuff.
They're trying to make it lighthearted.
Yeah.
Even though he's having heroin.
It's heroin of the draws that they're, yucking it up with.
Chaplin could do wonders with this scene, right?
Indeed.
Yeah,
classic
that.
Tramp right there.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Mhm.
Where he threw out because of his
times.
heroin withdrawal?
Modern times indeed. Moi?
Oh, Sawyer.
And one fake Sawyer, a shot. We'll talk about that later.
So I guess Sawyer didn't know what was in the case.
He never figured it out.
Jack could have told him right there.
Mm-hmm.
He even looked at Kate.
He
Yeah.
didn't say anything. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Is that the marshal's gun?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Nice. Try to. Mm-hmm. That's some NRA thinking right there.
Mm-hmm. Sawyer advocates for the pro-gun lobby.
So it's weird that, the only reason he couldn't come was there wasn't enough guns, right? Oh, no,
Yeah.
He couldn't use a gun.
Yeah. He didn't know how to use a gun.
Okay. This is a great, build-up moment. I love this music.
Yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Shit's getting creepy.
Yeah. Cut to the black clouds, and now it's raining.
Yeah, they didn't do stuff like this that often. That was weird.
Yeah.
It's like atmosphere building.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have any story to tell.
Oh.
Let's build some atmosphere and kill some screen time.
I like that, though.
Yeah,
it works. Maybe I'll take atmosphere over story.
Mm-hmm. Atmosphere doesn't let you down.
It really. So true. So true.
like they're hunting the predator or something.
Yeah. Seems like Kate should be in the tree.
Yeah. Where's Kate?
I don't know. They haven't shown her.
Gonna swing down from a vine or something. It's like he came out of the earth.
It really did, yeah. That was a horror movie appearance. That was like Freddy Krueger or something.
Yeah.
There she is.
Round 2. Jack and Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
How about that rematch?
All right, Ethan. Since you're superhuman, this should be no problem.
Mm-hmm. He did get back up.
True.
He's just a better fighter, first of all.
Yeah.
Nice, Jack.
You know, Jack's got the tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just like standing around.
Over here, Jack's got him.
I know. You could have helped him earlier, guys.
Yeah. No, he's got it now.
He does got it now.
Claire, come with me next to my knife. He's taking a lot of hits, you know. Either Jack's weak or Ethan's strong.
Yeah. He definitely comes off strong.
Yeah. Knock him out already. Jeez. What happens
As I recall, he still gets
not
trapped.
even knocked out.
Yeah.
What happens when a tap on the head makes him go to sleep?
Jack doesn't seem to know how to do the tap.
And he's a doctor.
Yeah, who or what?
See, there it is. Who or what?
Totally.
Oh.
Okay, that'll do it.
Mhm.
He's not that superhuman.
Wow, Charlie.
5 to the chest. Thanks, Charlie.
Where do you get that gun? Oh, that's what Jack dropped?
Yes. Is that what happened? I guess it is.
Probably.
I forgot where he got his gun. I was trying
So
to
I guess
remember.
he did know how to use a gun.
Apparently so.
He gets really close, and everyone's done all the work. Wow, that's awful. I mean, that's good storytelling, but it's awful. We're going to get some answers from Ethan.
I know. Yeah,
It was a pretty good plan. Their plan worked. They trapped him.
Yeah. You're right.
Jack in his purple cutoff shirt.
But they were supposed to take him alive.
Mhm. They really should have just had Charlie go with them.
That's the thing. It comes off like, I mean, that's not what he's about to say here, but it comes off like if they had just let Charlie in, then he would have been under control, and he wouldn't have done
Charlie
that.
could have got some blows in or something.
Yeah, exactly, like to release his anger.
Yes, I do, Charlie. That's why we did this plan, because I thought he would tell us.
That was the point.
Well, Horace and Amy are going to be sad that their son just died. Even though I guess they're dead.
Yeah, they're dead.
Thanks, Purge, we don't know about yet.
Mhm.
Can't you tell I've been crying? Look at my makeup.
This is not my happy face. We call it sick here.
Mhm. That was redundant. You liar. I love copiers.
Lost.
Well, you know what his problem was, right? Because obviously he could make a case that he didn't actually go sell. He didn't go pawn the trinket to get drugs. That wasn't his priority. His priority was doing the copier job.
Yeah.
His problem really was not that he took it, but that he should have realized if he wasn't going to sell it before work, then he could steal it later.
Yes.
And that was kind of his problem. But I guess he thought, well, I'll steal it now, and on the way home from work, I'll pawn it and get money and go get drugs.
I imagine it was like he had the opportunity. It was kind of impulsive.
Yeah.
And he didn't necessarily count on, ending up in the hospital.
Fatal flaw.
It was. It truly was. Ah, there we go.
Because it was so ridiculous.
Because there was no peanut butter.
She's like, that's less interesting. I was really hoping we had peanut butter on this island right now.
I actually like peanut butter.
Why wouldn't Claire care about having answers to what happened to her? Like, her baby, anything could have happened to her or her baby, and she didn't actually seem interested.
Yeah.
And she's not mad at Charlie for killing Ethan.
Right. Well, she wants answers in season 2.
Okay.
She's
she
just
hasn't
not
remembered
there
that
yet.
she wanted answers yet?
Yeah. It takes her a while. Claire just... Claire just takes a while.
She's telling Charlie I want to trust you, and in a couple episodes, isn't he going to try to drown her baby?
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
All right, so no cliffhanger. They just sort of resolved the problem. Like, that episode...
Yeah, I feel like that might have been the end of a little arc for this middle part of the season.
Yeah, it is. Like, that episode pretty much, wraps up the Ethan story.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, they don't have to say anything more about it for a while, and they don't really.
And because they never established that he was working with other people or anything like that, they made him by himself the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're by removing Claire's memory and, by having Ethan killed, they cut off all sources of information. Until they're good and ready to tell us more.
Yeah.
And, really, even though Claire, wants her answers in season 2, even then, we still don't learn that much. It isn't until, season 3 that we learn anything more about Ethan.
Yeah.
In terms of, who he is and what he was doing.
Totally.
So it's really a long time coming to learn just some basic answers about what this story is.
Yeah.
Because from their perspective, he's just this fucking, psychotic man who's attacking people and kidnapping this one pregnant woman for completely obscure reasons.
Yeah.
So there's to them, there's no story there. There's just this crazy guy that they need to stop. So it's weird. It's weird to watch it from that point of view.
Yeah, it's so long before they get into any of that stuff. Giving her amnesia was good. I'm curious to see how it plays out in the next couple episodes. When does she start becoming Claire again? Because she remembers peanut butter now. So.
Right. I feel like that's kind of symbolic that she kind of is just going to remember everything pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's telling us that it's coming back to her.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't remember the Ethan stuff until season 2, but I think, as I recall, it's not long that they have her with amnesia.
Yeah.
I actually thought she'd remember all in this episode, but not quite.
Not quite.
So, I do think, that flashback was not the greatest. Although I will say, like, it had more focus than the previous Charlie flashback, which I thought was kind of all over the place. Like, this one at least had a story, like, simple, like, story that was contained to a reasonable length of time, and, the arc sort of made sense.
Yeah. I don't really know I don't know really what the point of his backstory is, like, at this point. I mean, it's just another example of how his addiction sort of, ruined something, and, and this idea that he was trying to be a good, proper gentleman.
Yeah. He wanted to make something of himself, and I think it's vaguely supposed to, explain his motivations, but I feel like they never actually figured out a good like flashback story to tell for him.
Yeah, what's weird is these flashback stories, a lot of them are dealing with, the drugs, and he's done with that on the island, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Flashing back to that crisis, when he's sort of over it on the island.
And I think the show, like, sort of was stuck on that. I mean, that was his original problem, when he first crashed there. And it just seems like they just got, like, they could never get away from that because, they're making this about the addiction. Like you said, he's beyond it, but pretty soon they're going to introduce the statues, bring the heroin back.
Yeah, and then we get to go through that all again.
Yeah, and then it's all over again. And really it feels like once they've decided, well, we can't do the addiction again, then it's time to kill him off. Because they didn't, I don't think they had any more story for him.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, he's an addict, and he kicked it, and that's about all we have for him.
Yeah, and he got to be a hero, and he saved some people. And,
of course.
There you go.
Exactly. But, like, I guess his backstory, it just doesn't have a lot of depth.
No.
It's very, like, one-dimensional.
It's like a Kate backstory. It's like Kate's backstory. It's just not that intricate.
True. Although I think Kate's has more to it than Charlie's does.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like, compared to Jack or Locke or what have you, there's not a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, like, one-dimensional. It's all focused on this very simple idea. But I do think, like, this one was more coherent. But I do kind of understand, like, when I originally saw this, it was very frustrating that Claire doesn't remember anything. Charlie shoots Ethan. We completely lose our opportunity to learn anything new about this plot thread, which, as I mentioned when we watched Raised by Another, was like, the most interesting thing to me on the show at that point. Yeah. So I was not happy with how that came out, and I guess I feel like that combined with the the basic, like, irrelevance of the flashback is maybe why Damon Lindelof really doesn't like this episode.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my theory.
His least favorite?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I think, like, some of the atmosphere, why did I pronounce it that way?
I don't know. I'm going to let it slide.
I wanted to add stuff to it. I just put extra syllables in there. Some of the atmosphere and, like, the way Ethan is presented and stuff, like, it's pretty scary. Like, it's pretty intense and strong, and I like that style. And I like the basic plot of, let's trap Ethan. Let's try to team up and fight him off. And, I like that idea.
I love it. It was like, hey, Ethan wants Claire. What are we going to do? I don't know. Let's get 5 people with 5 guns and go after. I mean, they were way over prepared for that. Yeah. Because he came unarmed, which is weird. Yeah. And it's also weird, like, I didn't catch how they set up this meeting. Did they just send Claire into the jungle? Like, and they just knew Ethan would be watching, or did he say send her at a specific location. I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess, Ethan was saying, give me Claire or I'll kill them. And so I guess the idea was, like, just have Claire wandering in the jungle and he'll come for her.
He'll just find her, okay.
Yeah, which he did.
He did, hey, it worked.
So, yeah. I mean, maybe it was the area where Charlie met Ethan originally. That would be my best guess. Like,
what's weird about how they set that up is it's like the way they showed that scene. It was like Claire is in the middle of all these trees, and then everyone is in a perimeter around her.
Yeah.
But then when Ethan shows up, she runs away from them all.
Yeah.
And then Jack has to run after, and then he attacks Ethan, and that's why Jack's backup takes so long getting there because Claire runs away from where they're all stayed. And it, obviously it's more dramatic when she's running and he's chasing her, but it's like that shouldn't have been part of the plan.
Yeah. I want to say Claire deviated from the plan in a panic.
Yeah, she just panicked and started running.
Yeah. I feel like maybe she was supposed to run a different way or something, and she just kind of didn't quite do it right.
Yeah. Well, overall not a horrible episode, but it's to me, the best stuff is those 2 or 3 scenes about Claire and Ethan. That's about it. The backstory doesn't really give you much. I remember when I first saw this, thinking it was interesting, seeing Charlie like con Lucy, but it's such a lame con,
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's just But the next episode is Sawyer's backstory.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting. Outlaws.
Yes. I think that's the boar one.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, neither can I.
Got to get that boar.
I feel like after this we get a kind of reset. Yeah. Where we kind of go back into the mode of like those episodes before Raised by Another, where it was just kind of this character and that character, and the plot wasn't moving very much. Like
just daily life on the island. What are they doing today?
Yeah. I think like the plot, doesn't really pick up steam until later in the season.
Yeah.
When everyone finds out, like they haven't even explicitly shown or mentioned the hatch since like Hearts and Minds, I think.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, like it's insinuated.
2 episodes. I feel like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Well,
I mean, even then, it was
originally found it
only lightly mentioned, and I think they originally found it in All the Best Cowboys. So that was like like 4 episodes ago, but like there's been no development on it at all.
No.
So everyone has to find out about it. Also, like Michael needs to start his raft. He hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, that's coming.
So like those threads start moving, and then that's when like Act 3 kicks in, which is basically about those 2 things. So I think we're going to head back into just like you said, just kind of average daily life for the survivors, and just filling out their backstories more.
Yeah, I mean the others should want to like storm in the next day when they realize Ethan is dead, right? Like
you would think so.
Let's kill all these people who killed our guy. Our lead doctor on all this.
Right.
Juliet's still the lead or something. I don't know, but they only have 2 doctors, right? Yeah.
Ethan was the surgeon and Juliet was the fertility expert, something like that. But I don't know. They'll retaliate later.
They're busy ordering their props and their costume supplies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotta get that fake mustache.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else on Homecoming?
I was gonna mention something. I seem to have forgotten it.
Much like Claire.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, it's gone. Ah, well.
Nice.
I think that's it. I'm sure I'll think of it later.
Alrighty, well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back next. We will be back next week.
Yes.
And
we're making progress. We're like halfway through season 1.
we are, slowly but surely, wins the race.
Yes.
A turtle told me that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why he was talking, but
yeah, it's kind of scary.
Expert on winning races.
Oh, I was going to bring up, we mentioned it as it was happening, but Sawyer's little line, like, who or what is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like at the very least they're lightly insinuating that he might be something other than...
Yeah, right before he gets killed and there's no way to find out for sure,
yeah.
they throw in this extra idea of what is he, you know.
Yeah. And I remember being, like, blown away that they kept hitting him and he kept getting up.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, now when I watch it...
And what could be, you know, he could mean what in terms of, you know, what, is he a soldier or something?
Right.
You know, what is he? He's a military mercenary, you know, he's a mercenary.
Yeah.
Visa, whatever. But still, it makes him seem like he's otherworldly, you know.
Yes. But, like, watching it now, it's like... You know, he's tough. He's a good fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, they're just punching him a lot. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not as though...
It's like he's picking up a rock and, you know, hitting him on the head with a rock and Ethan's still not getting knocked out. I mean, he's really punching him in the face.
Exactly.
But, you know. And I think really he doesn't get knocked out because Charlie's about to shoot him.
Right.
You know, if they were going to talk to him later or something, you know, tie him up and talk to him, I think he would have gotten knocked out after a couple of hits. Yeah.
And so given that he's strong, like, Charlie is a pretty small, light guy. It's like, well, okay, I guess he can lift him up by his neck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess that's, you know, feasible. I mean, it's a little bit...
I imagine, you know, he's dragging Charlie and Claire to the jungle. And then he gets to the point where he wants to hang Charlie from the tree, and he I don't know, pushes Claire down or pushes Claire out of the way and knocks Charlie out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then just quickly makes a rope noose out of vines and hoists it over a tree, and then stands Charlie up and puts it over his neck, and then hoists him up, basically.
Yeah.
You know, Now what's Claire doing while this is happening? I don't know, but. I think that's why they didn't show it.
She's forgetting that she's watching it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to... For quite a long time, I held out hope that somehow we'd see it. They'd go back and show how it happened.
They could have in season 5, right?
That would have been the time. You're damn right. They even had Ethan show up in one of the time travel things. They could have totally had Locke, like, drop in on Ethan hanging Charlie. Oh, God. That would have been awesome. I would have loved to have seen that. Oh, well. That actually wasn't what I was referring to, though, although it's a good thing to bring up. I was referring to, in this episode, when Ethan picks Charlie up by the neck and pins him against the tree.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, I guess that's doable. I mean... Yeah,
I mean, he's really just pressing him against the tree, so that's easier than, like, sort of holding him up for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So what's funny about that is, like I said, realistically, to get that shot of him staring Charlie in the face, he's got to lift him up.
Right.
You know, so if it was like, you know, Ethan and Jack, I don't think you'd see Ethan lifting up Jack. There would be no point for that.
But they do, like, make it a point to cut to Charlie's feet off the ground to make clear that he's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's not just to put like they want to make it a point that he's doing it, not just like to have their faces eye to eye.
Yeah.
You know, even though that is clearly a big part of the reason.
Mhm. No, I mean he's showing it, but I mean those two things go together, right? It's like he has to lift them up for them to be eye to eye, and in order for him to be lifted up, this guy has, you know, the smaller guy has to be weaker, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it just works. Obviously, they're trying to show Ethan being strong. But, you know, it's not like you just have a tall, weak person lifting up a very heavy, small person.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't do that just to get their eye lines to line up.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the other strange thing was with Scott, like, I guess I exaggerate a little bit what they say. They don't actually say he broke every single bone in his body. Mm-hmm. She just starts listing things that he broke, and I guess the most impressive one was all the bones in his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, like, to me, Ethan, that's just overkill. Like, he really
and I don't
didn't
understand
need to do
how
all
he did that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where did he do that in the water? Did he come up through the water, drag Scott out into the water, and then drag him on the beach somewhere else, and then do all this stuff? And then, you know, I don't understand how you can, you know, I just don't know how he did it. You know, I don't know what that looks like.
And another thing is, like, the whole coming in from the water thing.
Mm-hmm.
They just say that, but they don't quite explain how. Like,
well, I assume he swam. You know, they can only guard so much of the beach, right? So he, you know, walks up as close to the perimeter as possible, and then just swims out to the ocean around. You know.
Oh, okay.
Because all they can, you know, the ocean is an open side. The beach,
right.
You know, the water is an open side, so they can only guard sort of, you know, three sides of their area. The other side is open. All you have to do is swim far enough, and you can get to any other part of the beach.
I see.
So I think that's how he got in. I'm just wondering, where did the bone breaking take place? Like, did he come in from the water and drag Scott out and do all that in the water? I mean, I don't believe that.
That would be weird, yeah.
And I think you'd need a tool at some point to break some of the fingers in your bone.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't have enough leverage just to sort of physically break some of the shorter bones.
Right. And I just wouldn't expect him to be so meticulous. Like, it's just kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Like, why not just, like, snap his neck and be done with it? Like,
well, I got the sense that he's trying to show how serious he is.
Yeah.
Like he's doing it overkill so he can so they don't want it to happen to anybody else, and so it can be clear that Scott didn't just, you know, get washed up in a riptide or something.
Right.
And you know, it's like, no, somebody, you know, tactically did this. But it is weird, of course.
Yeah. It sits up. What kind of expression am I going for?
I don't know, something about a dog, apparently. It sits up when you call it.
I'm going for some weird metaphor that no one uses. I was going to say it's next to, like, the behavior of the others that we see at other times. It compares strangely. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we see others kill people, and, like, none of them are kill. You know, he's killing like a horror movie villain.
Well, I think they're trying to say he's killing like a doctor. You know, I think that's any time, you know, somebody does, you know, he broke every bone in somebody's body. I feel like it says a person has medical knowledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because some of the bones, you don't know where they are.
But still, it takes a special kind of, you know, sadism to take your medical knowledge and use it to kill someone, you know, in a...
Well, it takes a certain kind of sadism to do anything he's been doing. I think, you know, taking a guy and hanging him in a tree, I think, is pretty drastic. You know, leaving him to die is pretty drastic. You know, he's obviously in sort of a mad scientist mode where he's willing to do whatever it takes to you know, finish his research or whatever. So,
right,
he's definitely psychotic.
No, I agree. But what I'm saying is, I feel like that kind of goes beyond. I mean, it goes beyond, like, even the stuff Ben did. I mean, Ben would kill people, but it was for a purpose, and he wasn't gonna just like overkill the killing.
Well, yeah, but it's Ethan trying to send a message, I think, right? I mean, to me, that's the explanation I have for why he why he goes overboard.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, look at it from his perspective. He doesn't want to have to kill someone every night just to get Claire back.
Right.
He wants it to be one. He wants it to be 0 killings and he gets Claire back.
Yeah.
But okay, that didn't work. So now he's going to go for 1 killing to get Claire back, and that worked.
Yeah.
Because he didn't just snap the guy's neck or drown the guy. He scared them by being that. So I think that's why he did it, and I think story-wise, it's because he's a doctor that he sort of does the whole bone thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is a very extreme thing to do.
Yeah.
But it works for what he's trying to get them to do.
And just like, even if you can make sense of it tactically, still for, just for loss, like the way they portrayed villains, it just wasn't very common to have like, villains that would like kill people in horrific ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like typically it was more or less.
Like by a smoke monster?
Does that count? I don't know.
Like being banged against a tree? I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, like to me, typically it was
mostly
straightforward things. They would be shot or they'd be stabbed.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, this is an outlier, but there's other outliers,
Yeah,
I mean,
like
Ben hung Locke.
Yeah.
They didn't do that much.
Yeah, well, he choked him to death, really.
Well, okay, yeah, he choked him to death. That's right.
So that's, again, like, if he choked him to death and then, like, I don't know, dismembered him or something, like Dexter kind of stuff. Like, I feel like that's sort of what Ethan's methods remind me of.
Yeah.
Like being that meticulous about it. Like, it expresses a kind of, like, commitment to the killing that, typically in Lost you just don't see.
Yeah. And I think it's because it's a killing where he's trying to send a message.
Right.
Most killings, they're not trying to send a message. They're not they're not in that situation of it being this sort of hostage negotiation or whatever kind of situation.
Yeah, but like they have, in at the end of season 3, they have that standoff where they have Saeed and Bernard and Jen captured, and they're threatening to kill him. They're just going to shoot him in the head. Like that's the only threat they're making.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, they're going to do like horrendous things to their bodies. They're just going to kill them.
But they're not trying to send a message. I mean, they already.
I think
have
they are
the
sending a message. I mean,
But I'm saying they already have the people that they could potentially kill, right?
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily trying to scare non-captives into doing something because they already have the people that they're going to kill if the Losties don't do whatever they're trying to get them to do.
Isn't that the point though? Like the threat of killing them is trying to scare them into obeying what they want, which is, not calling the freighter.
Yeah, but he already has captive, more than one hostage. So I'm just saying it's a little bit of a situation because Ethan is getting one person at a time. Like he's going to come attack one person at a time. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like if they start the negotiations with Ethan already having 3 people, I don't think he would have to, he could just say, I'm going to kill these people. That's a bigger threat than sort of scaring them with this message of this could happen to you too. Because he's already got the people, Ben already has the people he's going to kill.
Well, it reminds me like, the game they play is Ben's like, okay, if they don't do it in 60 seconds, shoot one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of like what Ethan does to Scott. Like, okay, I'll kill one of them so I'm serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2 are the remaining threat, like, so that it will continue to make sure that now that you're scared, now you'll really comply.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that situation is pretty similar to what Ethan's doing. So
yeah, it's definitely similar, but I feel like there's a difference between the immediacy of killing somebody outright and then saying, the way Ethan set up his threat basically was, I'm going to kill a person every night until I get Claire back.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit different because of how he set up the hostage scenario. But
yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the same.
They could make it. I mean, I think basically, I think you're right. I mean, Ben could have said, "Hey, I'm going to break every bone in their body and then kill them." I mean, that would have just heightened the stakes. I mean, he could have done that too. Yeah. Yeah,
and that's all I'm saying is like they're not at that point. They're not doing anything like that. It's just.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think this is an Ethan thing. I mean, Ethan did that. He's operating on his own in this whole thing anyway. So I think I think you're right. It's an outlier in how they portray killing, and I think it's an outlier because what I said before about Ethan being a doctor and sort of going to great lengths to get Claire back and all that stuff. I think it is an outlier.
I think he's also like feverishly committed to this project, and so I think he's taking it to a level, which is kind of crazy, but he's taking it to a level beyond where where even like Ben is gonna go.
Mhm.
Like I guess, but like it still is weird to me that like we get this kind of stuff early in the show, and it's just it's a little bit out of bounds for what they normally do.
Mhm.
Even though like as you say, it makes sense. It's not as though you can't rationalize it. It's just still it's just a strange little piece of the show because they don't return to this kind of thing.
Well, it's an extreme, and I think pretty much every element of the show has those extreme examples of something. So I think it's it makes sense in that way.
Yeah.
But we don't have to worry about Ethan too much more until we get time travel.
We're gonna get strangely like a lot more Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
But I think here we're done with the evil, scary Freddy Krueger Ethan.
Yeah.
We're never going to see that guy again.
No, he's done.
From now on, Ethan is just a nice guy, just a nice boy who, he was a surgeon and he likes to fix plumbing for old ladies and,
Wait a minute, he likes to fix old ladies' plumbing? Hey, now. I'll save that for the After Hours podcast.
And you know what? He lost his wife in childbirth, and maybe he got a little carried away. Maybe he overreacted.
Can you blame him?
We are never going to see the like terrifying creature that is portrayed in these episodes again.
Yeah.
So I say R.I.P. Ethan.
Yeah, R.I.P. evil Ethan.
He never really comes back.
Yeah.
The other version of Ethan, it's always been hard for me to reconcile with this character.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do all the work that they should to tie them together, but I don't know. I need something more horrific to explain why Ethan is like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where the jumping off point is. I mean, I think maybe the answer is just that he felt like he was close with Claire, or something. He felt like, because he's really the happy-go-lucky Ethan while he's at the beginning of this show when he's infiltrated them, right? Like he's that same kind of Ethan that we'll see in the flashbacks in season 2, but it's really when he has Claire in his grasp and he's doing with all that stuff to her, and then she escapes that he goes insane. So I would have to just assume it's he feels like he's on the brink of something, and it's driving him insane because he wants Claire back.
Right.
But he wasn't like obviously crazy when he's infiltrated. He wasn't really acting odd. He was acting like a normal guy before. So.
Yeah. Well, see, to me that was like he. It's not that he's. It's not that he's irrational. It's not that he understands, how to carry out a plan, and he's cunning and stuff, and yeah, he infiltrated them for a certain amount of time, so I mean, to me that makes him scarier because he can turn it off. It's not like he's a wild animal or something, Also,
I feel like the way to look at it, since when we get the backstory, like, it doesn't really make sense why he's this maniacal guy in these episodes. I feel like then the way to look at it is to say that, he's always the nice guy and he becomes maniacal when he has Claire.
Yeah.
So when he's infiltrated them, I mean, he's pretending because he's an other and he's not telling that, but his personality is still his personality. Like,
right.
If there's no lady who needed her plumbing fixed, he would, he'd help her out.
Yes. No, I mean, I think that is the correct answer in the end. It's just that, like, at this point in the show, all we know is that he infiltrated them, and then once that infiltration was uncovered, he's this guy.
Yeah.
So that makes it seem like this is the guy he really is, and the other Ethan was just pretending. Whereas I think your answer is closer to the truth, that actually the infiltrating Ethan was pretty similar to the real Ethan, and this crazy Ethan is the anomaly.
Yeah, it's the Ethan where he feels like he's dead set on finding this cure to this thing that killed his wife, and here's another person who, Claire is another patient who can help him get close, or maybe he had found something promising, and he's going to do whatever it takes to not lose that.
Yeah.
And instead of talking to them, he decides to be violent.
I know. It does seem like some, a very simple, a very simple conversation.
Trial, well, could you join a medical trial for us, please? I can give you some medical care, tell you how your baby's doing. He could have offered it like that.
Absolutely.
But part of his problem is the others aren't approving of what he's doing, I guess, because he's supposed to be getting lists. And
right.
So he can't really just get, be honest about what he's doing with them. So. Right.
Not only that, like, we're not, if he's offering her, like, medical assistance, that's going to raise questions. At a certain point, like, it's going to come to a head, like, okay, you guys, you've got a whole, like, group over there. What's up? Like, can you get us off the island? Like, what's going on?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think, if he starts being open with them, it is a slippery slope to, like, all right, guys, seriously help us out with more than just, like, medical care.
Yeah, which is why he does what he does, and it doesn't work out that well for him.
And, like, by the way, who are you people, and what are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Just FYI, I don't know, FRI.
What's FRI?
F our I.
Oh, F our I. All right. Of course, not FOI.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you have exactly the right read. It's just, the memories.
The memories of the way it was.
Yes, I can't. When I watch the show, I can still kind of remember what this experience was originally like, and I kind of I miss that original perspective.
Yeah.
Because it was interesting, and like because they've specified so little, they actually could expand the story of Ethan in a lot of ways at this point. They don't have to tell us what they eventually tell us.
Yeah, totally.
So I think, that I even though I was frustrated with not learning things, probably at least like subconsciously I liked the fact that I could still speculate. What happened to Claire when she was gone, Who is Ethan really? What is he doing? Does he have collaborators? Like, what's the story? Because we don't learn it.
Yeah.
You know?
So many questions, so many answers.
Yes, and we will not be getting answers on those anytime soon.
No.
But, I guess, yeah. The others don't really reappear until the end of the season, I think.
I tell you, they're waiting on their order for their costume supplies, I'm telling you.
Oh, that's right.
They're getting tents and fans and sashes.
Oh, good point. That's a lot of shit to set up.
It is.
And it's weird because they actually have real, camping equipment and, real, rugged clothing, but they're not going to use that.
No.
They're going to use the prop version.
Yep. And it's 2 to 6 weeks of delivery, so they're still waiting.
That's actually pretty good for an island that's invisible to the outside world.
Yeah. Well, FedEx, it's right on their path, right on their delivery route. So.
Wow.
Alrighty, well, I think that's it for Homecoming.
I think so, yes.
We will be back next week with Outlaws.
Can't wait.
Thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.